have a gentleman here with me whose name is synonymous with Asian Paints. He has clocked 3 decades with the company in various roles, taking company a notch higher with each one. I'm talking about Amit Syngle, MD and CEO of Asian Paints. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Syngle.
Thank you so much for being with you with Impact Magazine today.
Pleasure. Now, you have a big role in establishing and retaining the market leader position for Asian paints. In an increasingly competitive market like paints, where new and established leaders alike have consistently made their presence felt, how challenging is it to retain more than 50% market share?
See, overall, I think what we really believe in is that we stick to some of our core values in a very, very strong manner. First of all, first and foremost being in terms of keep on investing in the brand Asian Paints, and that is something which we have been doing consistently. And the other thing is that I think change is something which is synonymous with us in terms of what we have been bringing about. And this is more the dynamism in terms of looking at innovations, which are very different, both from the point of view of product, in terms of our distribution strategies, in looking at in terms of other areas of diversification, which we have kind of brought into that extent. So today, I think it's all about seeing that how is it that we can do things differently, how we can add equity to the brand. At the same time, I speak of one quality which we kind of speak continuously, which is inemulatability, which means that you keep on doing things which are very different and something which possibly people cannot copy very easily. And therefore, you're always kind of leaps ahead in terms of the work which you are doing and really keeping the brand in terms of right in the front and always kind of listening to the consumer in a very strong manner.
That's a very interesting word, and I'd love to know more about the practices specifically which kind of correlate to that and the products, the best-selling ones from Asian Paints that have kind of defied time and the new ones that have made a lasting impression.
So overall, I want to kind of talk about Royal Glitz today. I think it's something which is really in the luxury space, really a hallmark as I would see. I think it is the first product in the world, which we would see is combining not only the whole area of ultra luxury in terms of a paradigm. It comes in from a very, very strong point of, giving us a sophisticated classic kind of an ultra sheen look in terms of which kind of really comes in and backed with the fact that today it comes on a performance pedestal very, very strongly because we performance. So therefore today, I think it is very essential that when we look at the Indian consumer, the Indian consumer is just not awed by just the looks about it to that extent. They want to kind of have the substance in the product. And that is something which we bring with the kind of resilience, the kind of durability which it brings because of the crack-free kind of a performance which is there to that extent, which coupled with the ultra sheen kind of gives it really the pedestal of high-end luxury in a very, very strong manner. So I think this is one of the strong zones which we have kind of gotten in terms of the innovation which I spoke with. And along with Glitz, we are speaking of really the high-end decor, which is coming in with our international textures, which we are launching along with it, which kind of gives it a flavor of a full decor, which is really meant for the ultra uber luxury customer in terms of how we see it.
And then you have a very interesting brand ambassador for it, along with Deepikas. I mean, you have a person who's endorsing it for the first time, Asian Paints, basically. Tell us a little about the TVC and why you picked Karan Johar for this particular ad, in addition to Deepikas, of course.
So I think we are very excited because we have two superstars today featuring with respect to this communication. Deepika has been there with us for quite some time, and the stunner she is, she brings a lot of classic sophistication in terms of the overall brand to that extent. And the fact that she is kind of reached the top on her intrinsic strength, I think epitomizes with the brand very, very strongly, given the fact that it is a brand which kind of has reached this place in terms of the work which we have done in the environment and in the country to that extent. When we look at Karan, obviously Karan comes from a very, very different flavor, where he's obviously someone who's always caught the eyeballs of people in a very strong manner. He does something which is very different. He's also known for really kind of introducing the newcomers in the market in a very, very strong way. And I think he really enjoys a very, very strong rapport with all the top stars which come in. So we felt that it was a deadly combination in terms of getting an accomplished director himself on the sets along with Deepika, because the whole storyline is about the eyes of the director in terms of he sees it to that extent. We said, who could be more accomplished than Karan himself, who stands for a sophistication of a different kind, and he stands for possibly a tweak which he brings in terms of every conversation he does. So we said that this is something which is paint with Karan Johar rather than coffee with Karan Johar, to that extent, in terms of bringing it very strongly. And I think the combination with Deepika really takes it to a level next in terms of what we see.
You have a varied list when it comes to brand ambassadors. You have PV Sindhu, you have Ranveer Kapoor, and Deepika specifically. I want to talk about. Now, she is the ambassador for Royal Play, which initially she was appointed as ambassador for Royal Play, which was a brand that was younger, I think dynamic, more colorful back then. And later, she went on to become the brand ambassador for Royal Glitz, which is a more sophisticated luxury brand. So I want to understand from you, this is the same Deepika who's standing for two different ideas. Tell us about her evolution with
So
Asian
actually,
paints and what she really brings to the table.
okay. So actually, I think, she brings in a very high amount of versatility in terms of the way she kind of really comes in. Even if you look at the genre of movies she's done, I think there is a vast range in terms of what she brings onto the table. Obviously, I think as part of the royal kind of architecture, there was the play which was far more younger, far more playful, far more enthusiastic kind of a brand which came into that extent. And then we also graduated with her onto Nilaya, which was about our wallpapers in a very strong way in terms of what she epitomized, because those were also in the genre in terms of where Sabya had really designed those wallpapers for us in a very strong manner. And she was clearly kind of, standing for that kind of sophistication, which was kind of coming in from that point of view, because Sabya and Deepika again were very strong in terms of the genre of really bringing the contemporary Indian heritage forward in a very strong way. And now we felt that as part of the architecture, just extending Deepika to Royal, which we have been now doing for the last 3-4 years in a very strong manner, kind of lends the whole brand to another sophisticated kind of zone. Because today, if you look at her stature, she's standing for a lot of international brands, which kind of talk of that class and stature which she brings onto the table. And therefore, we felt that today, with the fact that sophistication she brings, the class she kind of stands for, and possibly the whole zone in terms of that she is being one of the persons who's kind of come onto her feet through her own kind of efforts and the work she has done. We thought it was simply superb to kind of take her really to kind of really endorse a Royal Glitz, which itself is ultra sheen stunner by itself. But at the same time, like the woman of substance she is, there is a paint which has also got a very strong substance in terms of an RTB of an crack free, which kind of comes in along with the ultra luxury. So I think it matches the whole kind of zone what Deepika brings onto the frame. And I think it's a very strong area in terms of what we are moving on with her along with Royal Glitz.
And this time I think Karan is in front of the camera and not behind the lens. So who's the person who's really guiding this behind the lens? And also, is there an agency that's worked with it on this particular campaign?
So we worked with one of the best directors here. We worked with Abhinay Deo, who has, long back he had worked with our Ultima campaign, which we had done, and it was a super success. And then he graduated in terms of moving into films in a very big way, about the Delhi Belly, in terms of which has got him the Filmfare Award in 2011. And then he did, things like Game, Blackmail, and some of the other movies which he kind of really got into. So I think it was a good time to bring him back with his prowess of looking at getting into some of the commercials, which can be very, very classy. He is an architecture by profession, and therefore the kind of sets we were able to kind of create and design those sets which look in that super sophisticated space, really exemplary. I think he brought in a lot of nuance in terms of not only the stature to the set, but I think getting the best out of two top super stars to that extent. Not only Deepika in terms of the way she's kind of really acted and performed, but also the fact that you are directing a super director by itself to that extent. So I think that is something which
A
he
lot of
handled
pressure, I'm sure.
yeah, he handled in a very, very good way, and I think he did some outstanding job in terms of creating this one.
But again, another thing is, Asian Paints is one of those brands that every agency wants to really work with. And you have worked with Contract and an earlier Deepika ad, I remember. And then there was Ogilvy, which made the TV Synthro campaign. I want to know from you, what is it that you really look for when you pick a particular agency for a commercial?
So we've been working with some of the agencies for a very long time, and I think Ogilvy has been one of those agencies which we have kind of been working with from decades to that extent. And then obviously we moved on to McCann and other agencies to that extent. I think one of the big things in terms of what we look at is that not only from the point of view of a creative prowess, but the fact that we are looking at a very, very strong way how the planning aligns with the creative process in terms of what they bring onto the table. And the part of the whole thing is that the creative zeal in terms of taking the brand leaps above in terms of possibly what you can do and really look at innovation in a very strong way is what are the guiding factors in terms of what we look possibly. Because I think it's necessary for a brand of Asian Paints stature that when the brand is at a maturity, how do you kind of really make the brand fly from the point of both innovation and second in terms of from the point of view of consumer insights, which can really propel the brand in a very, very different direction. So I think some of these agencies, we see that there is a very strong integration from planning and creative, and I think they do an outstanding job with kind of looking at in terms of giving us creators which are kind of really propelling the brand in a very, very strong direction forward.
And what is the marketing mix that you're going with for this campaign?
So we are looking at a lot of big bang media properties in terms of how we want to kind of launch, because it is a super launch with us. As I said, two mega stars coming onto the table. So we are looking at in-film promotion with Jawan. We are also looking at obviously cricket properties, which are basically going to be very, very strong this season. We are partnering with the Asia Cup. We are looking at the World Cup coming very, very strongly. So you will find us all across with doing a lot of stuff in terms of looking at these properties and what innovation we bring along with them in terms of the work which we can do. The other is that obviously we have been working with KBC for a long time, and I think we are looking at more innovations coming in terms of a spotlight wall, which is integrated with KBC in a strong manner, and that something is going to be a signature impact property in terms of what will come onto the table. So I think beyond that, there is a whole lot of 360-degree work which we are taking, which kind of looks at print, it looks at outdoor, it looks at a lot of below the line measures, which kind of gives us the presence across the length and the breadth of the country, because we want to kind of see that given the way the campaign has come out, we are able to maximize the reach and look at possibly getting the high number of eyeballs today possibly we expect coming from this campaign.
I'd like to come to the larger the industry overall. Past 2 years have been great for the paint industry. It's a 70,000 crore market today. But the opportunities have also made it more lucrative for some of the top Indian multinationals like Aditya Birla Group, Pidilite, which have recently made a foray into the paint market. How will it affect Asian Paints market share here on? And are you seeing an impact already?
So I think as I see it, this is something which we've always seen competition in this industry. We've had a lot of international players in the past coming, including the global number one Sherwin-Williams coming into the Indian market and then trying for 7-8 years and then going back to the place where they came from to that extent. We have seen some of the big, large corporates who are in the cement industry and the steel industry kind of venturing in the last 3, 4 years to that extent. So there has been always lots of competition, and therefore we feel it is big enough to take any number of people who want to kind of come into that extent, because the per capita consumption of paint in India is something which is very low as compared to possibly what we see in the Western geographies to that extent. And therefore, there is ample space for everyone to kind of come in. But I feel very strongly that given the fact that we are having a certain kind of brand equity, we have a certain supply chain strength which we stand for, and we keep on looking at innovation very, very strongly in terms of what we bring with respect to our products, categories, and overall the way we kind of really work. I don't think so that today we are kind of really kind of apprehensive about any new competition which is going to come in. And also the fact that today this industry is growing at a very, very strong pitch. And if in this industry you are not 10% or 12, 15% of the market, you are no one actually to that extent. So from that point of view, we see that any new brands, any new companies which will come in, I think they will take a very, very long time if they want to really kind of cause any disruption in the market to that extent. So therefore, we are not unduly worried, and we really welcome everyone who's kind of coming, because we know that we are on a very, very strong pitch in terms of our strategy, our values, in terms of what we're taking forward.
Yeah, but also with rising inflation, soaring crude oil prices, production costs is likely to increase for paint companies as per as experts. Now, is there room to escalate prices in the face of such fierce competition? They might not have big market share now, but they are a threat. So, how does that pan out?
So, see, today, if you look at the larger Indian audience, I think the whole area of value for money is a very, very strong proposition which the Indian consumer kind of really respects. At the same time, we are kind of having, the highest shares in the premium and the luxury segments to that extent in terms of going forward. So we are very clear that today also when we sell in the market, we sell at about almost at a 10 to 15% premium than any other player in the market to that extent. And therefore, that is a strength which comes in from the point of view of the brand, the equity which you have in the market to that extent. So we are not really worried that as you kind of go forward, that you're going to get into a price competition, or you are going to kind of really challenge people in terms of being the lowest on the prices or otherwise to that extent. I think the brand has enough muscle in terms of really, one, straddling the premium pricing, second, looking at kind of taking the premium and the luxury segments in a very, very strong way. And we feel that today, any new player, anyone who kind of is even existing in the industry, very difficult to challenge someone in the premium luxury space. You can only challenge the value space, where you can look at possibly a pricing challenge, or you can look at a discounting challenge, which kind of really comes into that extent. So therefore, from our strategy point of view, given the fact that we have been a larger premium pricing player in the market, I don't think so that today anything which is possibly any competition coming could kind of challenge us in terms of the pricing paradigm.
Interesting to hear that. And one last question I want to ask you. The paint companies have long ago entered the adhesive space, and now the biggest player there is entering your market. Conversely, you are diversifying, having recently entered the home decor space. In May, we saw you launch an impressive studio in Chennai. Now, what is the strategy at play here, and what kind of percentage of revenue are you expecting from this lifestyle home segment at this point?
So first of all, we believe that the luxury market is something which is growing extremely well, and we see that possibly by the end of next year, it would be almost about $8.4 billion US. That's the size of this industry. We are also seeing a trend in terms of all the luxury brands doing extremely well in terms of overall growth, which they are able to garner, given the fact that now the Indian consumer is definitely spending on a very, very strong footing. Especially after COVID, we have seen a relationship which is changing, where people are willing to spend, people are willing to kind of enjoy the money in terms of what they have on best of the things in life to that extent. Now, given this fact that we have looked at possibly just shifting a gear from saying that rather than just a share of surface, we need to kind of look at a share of space within the homes as well. So now we are not just about the four walls, we are about in between the four walls as well in terms terms of a home space to that extent. And that is where we have kind of got into this whole home decor foray, which is very, very big for us as we kind of go. We already have about 44 beautiful home stores today across the country, where it is basically decor under one roof. These are really strong phygital stores where we have a physical kind of layout plus also a digital technology which kind of comes in very, very strongly, which concentrates on the whole visualization platform in a very, very strong manner. So given the fact that this, we have kind of accelerated our footprint into all the categories, whether it is bath, kitchen, lighting, furniture, furnishing, rugs. So you name the category and you are there in terms of what we are doing. And the BH Studio in Chennai is kind of a very strong example where we have kind of really taken away from the premium segment in terms of which is there to a luxury segment in terms of what we have kind of now put into the frame. And we see that today, this is a category where we are now clearly the #1 integrated decor player. There is no one of this stature today in the country because everyone is into individual categories and not into being an integrated one player which is integrated into all the categories to that extent. And as kind of taking the right steps, we are introduced a beautiful home service as well, which we are talking about in terms of a full doing up a full flat or a house completely right from the scratch as part of the doing. And it's not only about painting, it is about everything inside the house, right from flooring to kitchen to bath to furniture, everything which kind of comes into the place. So I think it's a huge foray. As we see, it is also something which is in the inemulatable zone, which I spoke of in the beginning, because this is something which I don't think so anyone can really come and copy you, because it's a diversification which is very, very strong. And I think it complements the coatings business very, very strongly because you are now part of the consumer home decor cycle. You are being part of a rented home. Then when the customer buys the first home to the renovation to the second home, you are part of the entire life cycle of the customer. And I think that basically really propels the brand forward in a very, very strong manner as we kind of see it. We are currently about 4% of our overall decorative business in home decor. And we are very clear that by the end of financial year 26, we are talking of literally this contribution going to about 8 to 9% overall with respect to our decorative business to that extent. So I think it's a strong foray. We've made some acquisitions here. We are very bullish about the fact that we are looking at lots of innovations and lots of expansion to kind of really give the Indian consumer the very best in home decor as we kind of go ahead.
Super. So you have adhesives, you have home decor. Is there something else that's coming up?
You keep on guessing. I think there's always lots coming up the sleeve.
So we're going to keep our eyes straight on Asian Paints. And as of now, all the best for the Deepika and Karan Johar campaign. And thank you so much for speaking to Impact.
I'm sure, and I think these two superstars, we are adding a lot of stuff this season, and I'm sure this is going to be really crazy this year.
Super. Thank you so much.
Thank you.